I don't need a God to find spiritual fulfillment in what we're watching right now. All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. Hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you, and let's party. So we are going to take a little trip back in time, way back to the Star-Spangled Banner. Shout out to Daniel Cabrera for sharing this with me, and it's just really cool. So let's check it out.
There was a lawyer once. His name was Francis Scott Key. He penned a song that I'm sure you're aware of. You've seen it. It's in most hymnals throughout our churches. It's called the national anthem. It is our song as an American. We go, however, to a ball game. We stand in our church services and we sing the words of that song, and they float over our minds and our lips, and we don't even realize what we're singing. Most of us have memorized it as a child.
We don't even realize what we're singing. Most of us memorized it as a child. True.
But we've never really thought about what it means. Let me tell you a story. Francis Scott Key was a lawyer in Baltimore. The colonies were engaged in vicious conflict with the mother country, Britain.
Britain. Maybe. You've heard of it.
Because of this conflict and the protractedness of it, they had accumulated prisoners on both sides. The American colonies had prisoners and the British had prisoners. And the American government initiated a move. They went to the British and they said, let us negotiate for the release of these prisoners.
Sounds fair enough.
They said, we want to send a man out to discuss this with you. They were holding the American prisoners in boats about 1,000 yards offshore.
Damn.
And they said, we want to send a man by the name of Francis Scott Key. He will come out and negotiate to see if we can make a mutual exchange.
Sounds very American.
On the appointed day, in a rowboat, he went out to this boat and he negotiated with the British officials. And they reached a conclusion that men could be exchanged on a one-for-one basis. Francis Scott Key, jubilant with the fact that he'd been successful, went down below in the boats, and what he found was a cargo hold full of humanity, men.
That's crazy. Imagine. Like, I get that it's a different time and that slavery was a thing and that you know, classes were much more pronounced. But, like, just as today, like they said, a lot of us don't really know what we're singing when we sing the national anthem.
And he said, men, I've got news for you tonight. You're free. He said, tonight I have negotiated successfully your return to the colonies. He said, you'll be taken out of this boat, out of this filth, out of your chains.
I mean, think about hearing that. You're on a boat damn near in the middle of the ocean as a prisoner in the Revolutionary War, and it's not looking good. And then Francis Scott Key comes and is like, I got you.
As he went back up on board to arrange for their passage to the shore, the admiral came and he said, we have a slight problem. He said, we will still honor our commitment to release these men, but it'll be merely academic after tonight.
Merely academic? Meaning what?
It won't matter. And Francis Scott Key said, what do you mean?
I said, me too.
He said, well, Mr. Key, he said, tonight we have laid an ultimatum upon the colonies. Your people will either capitulate and lay down the colors of that flag that you think so much of.
Oh, hell no.
Never comply.
Or you see that fort right over there, Fort Henry? He said, we're going to remove it from the face of the earth.
Give me liberty or give me death.
He said, how are you going to do that? He said, if you will, scan the horizon of the sea. And as he looked, he could see hundreds of little dots. And he said, that's the entire British war fleet.
Now, obviously, if you're not familiar with the Star-Spangled Banner at all, this is how it came to be that Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner, which became our national anthem. I'm assuming you guys all know that.
He said, all of the gunpowder, all of the armament is being called upon to demolish that fort. It will be here within striking distance in a matter of about 2.5 hours. He said, the war is over. These men would be free anyway. He said, you can't shell that fort. He said, that's a large fort. He said, it's full of women and children. He says,
and they said, I don't give a...
It's predominantly not a military fort.
Oh, Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know it wasn't a military fort. I just assumed that, I guess that makes sense with women and children there, that it wasn't a military fort. But damn, Britain went hard.
He said, don't worry about it. They said, we've left them a way out. And he said, what's that? He said, do you see that flag way up on the rampart? He said, we have told them that if they will lower that flag...
Lower the flag and you can live.
The shelling will stop immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll know that they've surrendered, and you'll now be under British rule.
Can anybody guess what happened with that flag?
Francis Scott Key went down below and told the men what was about to happen. And they said, how many ships? He said, hundreds.
So if they're all like, oh, okay, let's just do it. I would completely understand. But if all of them, not just, one person was, like in the Patriot, waving the flag and running and getting everybody else while everybody else is retreating, that would be amazing.
Ships got closer. Francis Scott Key went back up on top and he said, men, I'll shout down to you what's going on as we watch. As twilight began to fall, and as the haze hung over the ocean as it does at sunset, suddenly the British war fleet unleashed. He says the sound was deafening. There were so many guns that there were no reliefs. He said it was absolutely impossible to talk or hear. He said suddenly the sky, although dark, was suddenly lit.
Yeah, but don't forget that you're oppressed.
And he says from down below, all he could hear the men, the prisoners, saying was, tell us where the flag is. What have they done with the flag? Is the flag still flying over the rampart? Tell us.
And the flag was still there.
1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours into the shelling. Every time the bomb would explode and it would be close to the flag, they could see the flag in the illuminated red glare of that bomb. And Francis Scott Key would report down to the men below, it's still up.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I mean, if you don't have an America boner right now, you need a GTFO.
It's not down. The admiral came and he said, your people are insane. He said, what's the matter with them?
What's the matter with us? We believe in freedom. We believe in liberty.
He said, don't they understand this is an impossible situation?
Maybe. Maybe not.
Francis Scott Key said he remembered what George Washington had said. He said the thing that sets the American Christian apart from all other people in the world is he will die on his feet before he'll live.
On his knees. I will die on my feet before I live on my knees.
On his knees.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
The admiral said, we have now instructed all of the guns to focus on the rampart to take that flag down. He said, we don't understand something. Our reconnaissance tells us that that flag has been hit directly again and again and again, and yet it's still flying. We don't understand that.
How is our flag still there?
But he said, now we're about to bring every gun for the next 3 hours to bear on that point. Francis Scott Key said the barrage was unmerciful.
I mean, just look at this visual. Look at this visual. There's no type of protection. There's no modern day anything. There is just gunfire and bombs just falling out of the sky. And still, we said, hell no. This is our house.
All that he could hear was the men down below praying. The prayer. God, keep that flag flying where we last saw it.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Sunrise came.
And the flag was
He said there was a heavy mist hanging over the land, but the rampart was tall enough. There stood the flag, completely nondescript, in shreds. The flagpole itself was at a crazy angle, but the flag was still at the top. Francis Scott Key went aboard and immediately went into Fort Henry to see what had happened.
It's like, we did it! We did it! Let's go! America #1!
And what he found had happened was that flagpole and that flag had suffered repetitious direct hits.
But
And when hit had
was
fallen,
still there.
but men, fathers, who knew what it meant for that flag to be on the ground.
Everything. That flag meant everything. And means exactly the same thing that it did on that day.
Although knowing that all of the British guns were trained on it, walked over and held it up.
Wow.
Humanly.
Wow.
Until they died.
Jesus. Yeah, I didn't know that part of it. I didn't know that part of it at all.
Their bodies were removed and others took their place.
That is so beautiful. You know, a lot of you, get down on me for not being a Christian, though I am very happy with Christian values. I love Christian values, but I'm just not a believer. And a lot of you give me ish for that. I don't need a God to find spiritual fulfillment in what we're watching right now. Take that for what it is.
Francis Scott Key said what held that flagpole in place at that unusual angle were patriots' bodies. He penned the song, "Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming. Or the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night
that the flag was still there.
Oh, say, does that Star-Spangled Banner yet fly and wave o'er the land of the free
and the home of the brave." So, I mean, definitely go check out the rest of the video. They do a little bit more with it, but I thought that was just amazing. Amazing. That's the kind of Americana that we need. That's the kind of pride that has been lost. And where has it gone? Now, I understand a lot of you are going to say, well, it's because people don't have God anymore. And maybe that is a big part of it. Maybe. But unfortunately, God is never coming back to people like me. I leave my mind open. I may be wrong about that. But a lot of people don't have their mind open. And even with my mind open, I'm pretty sure. So we need something to bring us together. And if this does not strike in you some kind of spiritual obligation to be a real American, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. Thank you so much. Big shout out to Daniel Cabrera for showing me this. And I hope you guys enjoy this. Until next time, guys, I have been your host, Lutch, a.k.a. the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, I am out of here. Peace.